Welcome to another podcast, One Door at a Time, Concentric Educational Solutions podcast that brings community, business, politics, and education together. Today, I have an opportunity and the distinct pleasure of welcoming Curtis Valentine, founder. You've probably seen him all over social media, all over LinkedIn, the Real Men Teach Project. Kurt, I want to thank you for coming on, man. Thank you for hitting me right back and saying absolutely making it happen. So let's jump right into it. So how did you get into, share how you started, how you start getting in education, and then, you go from there.
Well, it's a long story, man. I mean, it goes back to childhood, really having that connection to the community that I growing up in central New Jersey, being a student.
Oh, you from Jersey?
Yeah, basically from Jersey,
okay.
Bro. First generation, college, student. My parents, sort of folks who came up from the South, mom from Georgia, dad from Virginia, working class family, but really set a foundation for education. Had a strong village of brothers who really were a part of my life, coaches, barbers, small business owners, and educators, my dad included. Eventually, matriculated to Morehouse College, and again, was just sort of surrounded by this connection to Black excellence, Black support, Black love. It eventually ended up in South Africa after that as a Peace Corps volunteer, man, and sort of living in a village again, getting back to the foundation of community. And then when I came back from South Africa, man, I became a school teacher, bro. I taught Oxon Hill Middle School, language arts, 8th grade language arts, and really started getting my feet to my feet settled into this idea of education. Even in South Africa, I was an educator, sort of working with teachers in post-apartheid South Africa. But that was sort of my first taste in the field of like actually being an educator, having a connection to the students. But also really was probably the first jumping off point for my vision for Real Men Teach, because I was the only only male teacher on the entire first floor of the building. There was some men in sort of administration.
This is at Oxon Hill.
Oxon Hill.
Okay.
And so I definitely want to shout those brothers out. But for the main part, I felt alone, felt separated, felt misunderstood, felt stereotyped, and that's really where I think the beginning of Real Men Teach started.
So go back to Morehouse. Morehouse is obviously, we know the reputation, the great people that it produced. What made you choose Morehouse?
Long story, man. So my best friend in the world, his father is Kappa from North Carolina Central. Mom went to Fisk, and so he had that, parents who were college graduates. So his dad took him on a college tour and took him to Morehouse. He fell in love with Morehouse. He comes back to Jersey. Hey, Kurt, man, let's go to Jersey. Let's go to Morehouse together, man. We'll be Morehouse. I was like, nah, I was going to Hampton. I was on the way to Hampton. Okay. Man. My family's from Virginia. My middle school principal, Mr. Carl Wade, who I shout all the time, was a Hampton alum. They were pushing Hampton like it was, the promised land. Long story short, he says, Kurt, let's go to Morehouse together. I said, hey, man, let's think about it. All right, apply to Morehouse, get in.
Wow.
And then by the time I decided to go to Morehouse, he switches up, go to Georgetown. So he ended up going to Georgetown. I had him go to Morehouse. The funny story is on day 6 at Morehouse, I meet my wife, Valentine, been married 16 years.
Wow.
He meets his wife at Georgetown, and our wives went to high school together. Wow.
That's a small world.
At Suitland High School. So his wife went to Suitland, my wife went to Suitland. There was Suitland high schools, in the same programs. And so yeah, 2 guys from Jersey married 2 girls from Suitland, in DC and Atlanta. So it was meant to be. But yeah, that's how I got to Morehouse. But I mean, I tell people when I got into Morehouse, when I told people, hey man, I got into Morehouse, people looked at me differently.
Okay.
So when I said I got into Hampton, shout out to all the Hampton alums, they said, oh, you went to Hampton, good job. When I said, nah, man, I'm thinking about going to Morehouse, they were like, oh, Morehouse, okay. And I tell people, I really like the way people looked at me and like the way their voice changed when they hear Morehouse. I said, well, what's it about this school that everybody's talking about? I had not visited. So funny thing, I went to Morehouse sight unseen. Showed up, man. I got in. Wow. I heard about it. I heard all these great things about it. I never went down there for the summer, never visited, never toured it. I pulled up with a van, my mom and dad. We got lost going to the school. Pulled up. I said, hey, man, I'm about to make something shake because this is what it is. And and was the best decision I've made in my life. And I've been, trying to get brothers into Morehouse and out of Morehouse ever since.
It's interesting. So my son, DJ, he goes to St. Albans.
Okay.
And he visited one of his classmates that graduated, went to Morehouse. So he went down there. And he was considering some other PWIs and stuff like that. But when he went down there, it was an overwhelming feeling for him. It was like what they were instilling. Like, what are some of the things that your time at Morehouse really instilled in you?
Well, first and
that
foremost,
have stayed with you.
Well, it's brotherhood first and foremost. So from the minute you start there, you have a week-long orientation process that's unlike any other HBCU, any other institution in the world. It's an indoctrination process, but it's also a rite of passage. But most importantly, it's run by students. And so it's
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they get a budget. They have to staff it. They have to run it. It's a 24-hour exercise over the course of the week. And so that brotherhood and that dependence on one another is first and foremost. Secondly, it's really instilling you the sense of excellence and potential.
Okay.
Like we talk, when people say, "Man, I want to start a business. I want to run this company. I want to be the president of a bank. I want to be president of the United States." Like, we believe you, and we make moves in order to ensure that you can get close to your goal, or meet your goal as possible. Also, this idea of accountability. Like, when we talk to you about your goals, we want to ask you, hey, how far have you got along? Have you got in doing this? You said you wanted to do it. You tell me what you need. I got you. But I also know that, you can't get it done without a plan. And you can't get it done waking up late, not being driven by your work, being distracted. And so that really is a big part of it. But more importantly, this idea of community and connection. When you go to HBCU, as you know, it is the first time, particularly as Black people, we all kind of breathe, breathe easy. Morehouse is unique because it's Black men. And so we're not talking about sexism or racism. We're talking about just brothers walking around in our most authentic self, being true to who we are, but more importantly, connecting with brothers from around the country. So I went down in 96. I'm meeting brothers from Detroit.
Oh, that's when you were in there, 96.
Yeah,
okay.
I started 96. So I'm meeting brothers from Detroit, Cali, Texas, North Carolina, obviously Atlanta, New Orleans, Tennessee, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Chicago. And I'm being exposed to this sense of community. In the end, we're thinking, hey, bro, you're from another place. You may have a different lingo. You may dress differently. But deep down inside, brother, we all cousins. Absolutely. We all kind of look alike. We had the same name. Lo and behold, I found out one brother was my cousin. Like, I found my cousin who was in my year had the same first name, Curtis Brown. I'm Curtis Brown. Found out we were distant cousins, bro. And so this is a funny thing, man. When you get down to those schools, man, you feel like you are part of that history of that school, history of the community that built up that school, and you feel like you can do anything, man. And it's the power of HBCUs, but more importantly, the power of Morehouse College.
So how'd you get to South Africa? Like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, so I took a course my senior year. Even before that, I was in a chapel assistant. So I was a youth minister on campus. Okay. And one of the pastors who came to guest preach, we were asking, hey man, what's your best piece of advice you can give us? He says, man, if I can give you one piece of advice, leave this country. Go to another country, like travel, like get outside of America. You'll never see America for what it is unless you leave it. So it stuck with me. I said, well, I had no idea how to get to a foreign country.
Yeah.
The money, the strategy, anything. So fortunately enough, my senior year, I took a course on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa, which was set up by Desmond Tutu, post-apartheid. They set up this commission where they would do interviews and offer mostly white Afrikaners the ability to sort of confess to their actions in return, they would be prosecuted. So it's like, let's get the truth out and not really, use that as a way to, throw people in jail. And so I took a course on that. I was like, all right, South Africa, I'm learning more about South Africa. I'm on campus, a good brother, Les Etienne, good HBCU alum. Omega brother said, I'm walking across campus, and he stopped me. He said, hey, Kurt, he said, hey, man, what's your name? I said, I'm Curtis. He said, man, you ever thought about traveling? I was like, absolutely. He says, man, you ever heard of the Peace Corps? I was like, yeah, man, but that ain't really for me. He's like, well, let me talk to you about it, my experience. He had done it, I want to say he might have done it like in Latin America or something. And I was like, bro, I don't have no time. It's midterms. I want to go to the library to begin with, bro. Like, I don't have time to be doing all this stuff. He says, bro, this is the power of Black men. He says, man, I really think you really help you out, bro. I'll do the application with you. Just come to my office tomorrow. Come by, and we'll sit down, we'll do it together. And so I said, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Bro," I said, "if you're willing to take your time out of the application with me, and you did it, it must be something." So we ended up doing it. Application, got into the program, got into South Africa, and that was sort of how it went. But the idea that this brother felt strong enough to do that for me was really important. And again, I shout out Les. He's actually in Indiana right now, Indianapolis, at IUPUI.
No, okay.
Runs the education program there. And he kind of get tired of me shouting him out, man. He kind of like doesn't really. I don't think he appreciates it, but I'm not sure he understands the power
of what he did.
Yeah, what he did to be able to tell me, like, bro, I know you're busy, but this could be the life-changing decision. And it did, man. I spent 2.5 years in a village, no electricity, no running water.
2.5 years, wow.
2.5 years, bro, speaking African language. I still speak an African language. Grew my hair out. You probably can't tell, but I mean, I learned about us as African people at its foundation, bro. Like going to village meetings, watching people go out and gather wood, go to the river to wash their clothes. I washed my clothes by hand for 2 years.
Was it a shock when you got there?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think the idea is like we had this misconception about Africa. You and I grew up in the 90s where it was sort of like this sense of famine and starvation. But these places in South Africa were thriving. You go to West Africa, you go to Kenya, you go to Nigeria, Ghana, even South Africa, even Zimbabwe, places like that. They had cities, they had governments, they had, towns that were running. But we never saw that.
No.
And so when I went out there, I was kind of surprised when I would see people playing golf and people wearing suits and people all this. Like I was like, okay, this is not the Africa I heard about. But then I was put actually in the village. So I was actually put where you had, mud huts and dirt roads and kids walking to school with no shoes. But I also saw happiness, joy, connection, dependability, all the foundations of who I wanted to be in life that went beyond money and status. And so that really opened my eyes. But that experience, hands down, was the best of my life.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like two stories. I have one, my frat brother, Mateo, when everybody else was going straight out of college to grad school, what he would do, he's a teacher. Shout out to Tiano Brown. Well, he's a teacher. But what he would do is he would teach all year, math teacher, and then he would save up for the summer.
Yep.
And he would literally backpack. He would fly someplace, backpack, whether it be through Central America, South America, Asia. And if he ran out of money, then what he would do is get like a job, like washing dishes, something like that. And he did that for the first 6 years. And he's probably, he is the most grounded brother. And because he spent literally 5 years, 6 years just traveling, learning so many, it was better than any masters or post-grad that we could have gotten. Also, I finally just got to Africa last year. Rock and Jermaine helped, producer Rock and his partner Jermaine helped build a school outside of Kumasi. And to your point, it was so humbling of how happy they were with what we would say they would have nothing. Yep. Like spending those 4 hours driving on a van, dirt roads and stuff like that. But when you got there, and they wanted to give you their all, their last. And it's just something that kind of stayed. What made you just start coming back?
Well, I mean, there's a program. The Peace Corps is 2.5 years.
Okay.
So the program ended. I came back and was fully expecting to go back to Africa and like live and never come back to America, right?
Wow.
I was like, man, like America can't do nothing for me. I'm out here with people who are genuine, who don't look at me for status, but just like for who you are and what kind of person you are. But I came back and then reconnected with my wife, and then that sort of is the rest. But my experience, even to this day, I'm very, very mindful of like food waste, about like wasting water, like things that I remember. That was 20 years ago. But if I see someone with like water running, I'm gonna go turn it off. If I see someone like with wasting food, I get a reaction to how I understood people who I was living with would see that. People don't waste food. People don't waste water. People don't waste a lot of the things that we take for granted. And you would expect me to run off on me eventually. All right, Kurt, man, you get back to, you're in America, running water, wasting water and wasting food ain't gonna be a big deal for you, with turn the lights off or whatever. I didn't have lights for 2.5 years, bro. So I'm reading my candlelight. I'm got my little two-way radio.
Oh, man.
I was actually there during 9/11, so I heard about 9/11 over the radio. And so those are the things that really stick with me about this principled, principles about life, but also again about the power of men. So in that village, we had, men stood guard, man. Like this goes back to generations ago when, if an animal came into the village to hurt one of the other animals or people had sort of a process of dealing with that. Fast forward, when it came to, safety, security, justice, there were no police officers in that village. There was no fire department. It was like people taking care of one another. But that reminded me so much of my upbringing in Jersey, of all the fathers on my block, all the coaches who stood guard. And so a lot of what I did, fast forward to Real Men Teach, was about like, how do I how do I just, reconnect with that past, but also create a world where my son and my daughter can have the same level of accountability and opportunity, and support and security that I grew up with, and that a lot of people who grew up in South Africa in my village grew up with. And so I'm doing that, one guy at a time, one city at a time. But it is that village of Black men that I grew up seeing, and I saw in South Africa, and that I think every child deserves.
So now you're at, excuse me, Oxon Hill Middle School. Is that the origin of Real Men Teach?
To some degree. So I'm at Oxon Hill, and I took a lot of that forward. It would be another almost 10 years before I started getting more involved in this. But it was an experience where, I understood the power of being a Black male teacher. I didn't have many growing up. I think I had a gym teacher, Mr. Hooper, and I had a history teacher, Mr. Foster, who actually played pro football for the Patriots. But my most, impactful Black male teacher was my middle school principal. And so I only had 2 subject matter teachers, Black men, and a middle school principal. So I became a Black male teacher. I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to come in. And the students connected me with, different ways. First of all, I was the only Black male teacher there, but I realized I was more than a teacher. And the things I said and how I moved were being seen by students in different ways. And so, that experience really, stuck with me when I moved forward. But I think that was in my mind. When I think back about how it started, I think back about that experience and how it really impacted my life.
Yeah. So what's the crucible when you switch it and you take all those things that you've learned, experience, and say, okay, I'm going to start. I want to start a movement, because this, like, quite frankly, it's a movement.
Oh yeah,
like, it's everywhere, man. Like it crosses fraternities, right? I see it everywhere. I was telling one of my younger frat brothers, right? I'm like, man, like it's genius in the sense that you just take something, a very simple phrase, you put it on a hoodie or a t-shirt, and it resonates. Like it's I don't know if you thought about it, but it's really a movement.
Well, I mean, no, the energy behind it comes from an experience I had in 2013. So, from working at Oxon Hill Middle School, I eventually went back into African development, spent another 3 years on the continent. So I was in Nigeria.
Oh, you went back?
I went back. So but working with an American company.
Okay.
So with a group called AfriCare, which is a Black-run international program, right there in DC. Started in DC by a good brother named C. Payne Lucas.
Okay.
So I'm back on the continent. I'm moving around. I'm in Rwanda. I'm in Burundi. I'm in Uganda. I'm in Zambia. I'm in Sierra Leone. I'm on the continent moving, and again, reconnecting with people who sort of look like me in a lot of ways, sound like me, look like my friends, my cousins, and I'm like, that's when I kind of got connected to the diaspora, the way that Marcus Garvey did, and Du Bois did, and say, man, like these superficial lines of American, West Indian, African, or all these 54 African countries. I'm like, we're all one people. I come back, I eventually end up at Harvard University, get my master's degree. And though I come out, out of Harvard, and I go work for this, guy named Barack Obama running political campaigns. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, so I ran this campaign in Prince George's County in 2008.
Okay.
And so, I would say, run the campaign, we win. The day after the campaign, women are people are storming into the office, taking stuff off the wall, trying to get memorabilia, trying to just get stuff. And, they asked me all the same question. So what's next? Like, we won the election. Like, so what do we do now that we've won? And so I kind of took my grad degree, and, I did what they told me to do was take a survey. So I surveyed all the people, all the volunteers who were mostly Black women. I said, what is something that you would fight for, a policy, not a candidate, but a policy you think you'd fight for in Prince George's County? Number one response was education. We got to fix the schools. We got this great county, got all these Black folks driving these nice cars and all these churches and all these nice houses, but the schools don't meet the demand and don't meet the bar. Like, all right, I was like, all right, I used to teach. Okay, education. All right, figure this thing out. And then I started working in education, working with a group called Maryland Can. I was in Annapolis. You know, then I started meeting people like, you know, Jay Walker and Jolene Ivy and people who are educated elected officials. And now I'm starting to learn, okay, what it actually means to change laws, right? To get stuff done, to not have an idea, but to have a strategy to change systems. And now I'm learning the process of that. And then eventually, you know, I get tapped. Someone says, Kurt, you ever thought about being on the school board in Prince George's County? You know, we're changing the law now that allows us to appoint someone to the school board, but they got to be a parent of two kids. I'm like, I got 2 kids in the school system right now. I get appointed to the school system. One of the first meetings I had was with Kevin Maxwell, who's the CEO, another brother named Albert Lewis. Albert Lewis at the time was the reigning teacher of the year in Prince George's County. Morgan State alum. Shout out to my man Albert Lewis. He's currently the principal at Largo High School.
Okay.
He about 27, 28 years old. Brother, I said, man, you the teacher of the year in the district? We got 9,000 teachers. And you a 27, 26-year-old, you know, young man, black man from Morgan State? Like, bruh, how we get more of you?
Yeah.
And so that's when we started the Male Educator Network, MEN, the Male Educator Network of Prince George's County Public Schools. And that's where it kind of started. I'm like, I got to organize.
Okay.
Coming from Obama, coming from Africa, I'm like, I'm someone like, I don't like a lot of talk. I'm like, all right, I can get people in the room and we'll just make something shake. Bring him together and start bringing together. And it started off like a focus group. So we brought in about 10 or 15 brothers who are educators, administrators, principals, school teachers, paraprofessionals. And we just sat around, we just chopped it up. Like no agenda. Hey, but how y'all feeling? Do y'all like teaching? What would y'all change? You know, why are you here? Why did you come? And so we started doing activities. We started doing workshops on like how to be a good advocate for your school, meaning how do you get laws changed? How do you come to the school board and demand more for your school? How do you partner with businesses? How do you walk into a Home Depot and demand, you know, free supplies to rebuild the playground? You know, how do you go down to the MGM? How do you go to these, how do you go to the Chick-fil-A and get free chicken for your students? What does that process look like? Then we said, you know, y'all want to be principals and superintendents? You know, are y'all good at interviewing? And so we started doing interview workshops, right? Interviewing 101. And that's really where the energy came. Lastly, we say, you know what? We got to celebrate y'all because we understand that particularly black men, and this is on any field, any sort of field, most of us feel underappreciated, right?
Yeah,
and over scrutinized. And so we said, we're going to celebrate y'all. We're going to do an award ceremony, invite the entire community out to say, you know what? We're going to shine a light. We could curse the darkness about how many we ain't got, or we could celebrate the ones we do got. And so we honored one male teacher from every school. That's 200 schools. So we were doing 200 male educators every year award ceremony.
Wow.
We invited out the Kappas, the Omegas, the Sigmas, the Alphas, the 100 black men, the concerned black men, and they would line the stage and shake everybody's hand. If you got an award for your school, and we boo-hooing, bro. And the kids are showing up with signs, I love you, daddy, or the students will come out, I love you, Mr. Johnson, or appreciate you. Bro, it was emotional. We brought out people my man Leon from NBC, one of the
newscaster, right?
Newscaster came out. We brought our newscast, NBC4 would come out, did a story on us. We would fight them against this sort of negative stories about black education systems and about black leadership. And I'm like, we got some good news. Let's tell the good news. So we're killing it. We did about 4 years in a row, all these awards, right? All this workshop. And then COVID hits. So COVID hits, I'm like, all right, so how do we take what we've did in real life and turn it into something online? And my sister, who's a lawyer, is like, hey, I see you using the hashtag real men teach a lot. You ever thought about trademarking it? And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? If you trademark it, you could own it outright, and then you could license it, but then no one else can use it, and you could build a brand that makes sure that nobody misuses it. Come to find out, when I applied for it, Winston-Salem State owned it. Black college. They had a program called Real Men Teach, but eventually they let it lapse. Okay. And so I eventually got the trademark and started off thinking I just want to build apparel because this is around the time of like Black Lives Matter shirts. Yeah. I'm like, I just want to have us make a statement about what it means and to take back this idea that teaching is a feminine position. Like it's a masculine job. Men need to stand guard. So we started with the clothing line. I started printing up sweatshirts, and I did one thing, bro, that really showed again how powerful brothers are. I sent out 100 text messages to 100 of my closest friends. And I did it in the course of an hour. Just text, hey, bro, starting a clothing line, man. Proceeds will go to scholarships, bro. I'm not doing it for the bread. I'm just doing it to show love and to celebrate y'all. I'm gonna post, once you get a hoodie, send me a picture back. I'm gonna post you. I'm gonna celebrate you the way we celebrated these guys on the stage. Bro, I got 100 yeses. Kurt, bro, say less. I got 100 sales in the first 3 days, right? Took those photos and started posting. I said, well, I'm gonna do 100 photos of Black male educators for 100 days. I wanna just destroy the whole algorithm and show the world that we're gonna have Black male teachers in your face no matter what. After 100 days, I said, all right, we good. I had 100 more photos in my phone.
And that was kept on going.
And that was 4 years ago. And we ain't stopped for 4 years. We get people reaching out to us every day, school systems, nonprofits, school leaders, celebrities. Hey, bro, I love what you're doing. College of Education deans, I'm seeing your stuff on social media. That started with me just asking 100 brothers, bro, would you show love? And this is where we came from. And I tell people all the time, you can't wait till the time is right.
There is no right time.
People are waiting for you. Right? Brothers want to help you. And whether it be your frat brother, your college friend, your high school buddy, they're just waiting for you to ask. And you're waiting for them to volunteer. Bro, you can't wait for them to volunteer. Hey, bro, I need your help. Can you help me? I'm doing it for a good cause. And it's you know, and in the end, I'm showing love to you. So if you purchase the hoodie from me, I'm giving it right back out to you. So I post you on social media, you getting all the likes and all the comments, all the celebrating. Oh my man, oh my God, that's my son, that's my nephew, that's my teacher, that's my class, that's my frat brother. Oh my man, that's a good stand-up dude. Man, I'm glad he's getting his flowers. Bro, that went viral. And I started realizing the power of social media, but also the power of brothers feeling seen, brothers feeling appreciated, brothers feeling like, all right, I can be my authentic self. And that's how it started, bro. And it's been viral ever since.
So what's next? Like, where do you see it going?
Bro, man. So just signed the book deal.
So congratulations, I saw that.
Thank you, man. The book's coming out. It's called Real Men Teach. It is a 250-year story of Black men in teaching that dates back to 1794. Starts off with a brother named John Chavis, who's a distant relative. John Chavis is the first Black man to ever attend college in America ever. My full name is Curtis Chavis Valentine from the Virginia Chavises. And so I'm going to tell the story of Black men education from that point of view. Obviously, a book tour is going to come with that. We're also going to be doing a series of exhibitions of the photographs of the brother that was sent it to us, that we received. I'm going to print those up and take that on tour and have them across African-American museums across the country and having conversations with Black men in different cities, but using the photos as a backdrop to say, this is how we see Black men in different views. I got pictures of brothers standing in front of pyramids in Egypt. I got brothers and pictures hanging off of cliffs. I got pictures of brothers with their students, like beautiful visuals of Black men in education. And then we have our first college partnership. We're licensing, we have a university, a Big Ten university, licensing our brand. Our school, gonna be in their school store, bro. So we're gonna have our brand in Big Ten footballs, school stores, take the proceeds of that, put that into a scholarship, endowed scholarship at these universities for Black teachers. Starting some working with Diversity in Ed magazine, which is a magazine that posts jobs for Blacks in higher education. We're gonna be doing some training with them coming up. So the training I talked about, the interviewing one-on-one, we're gonna be doing trainings with how we can get Black men to make the right decisions on what jobs to apply for, how to negotiate salary, how to interview well, and how to make career decisions in education. And then we continue our partnerships, man. We partner with school districts around the country, nonprofits, universities. Most recently, we partnered with Duval County. And they say Duval down in Florida, bro. Right now, if you're in Duval, man, you'll see billboards on the highway of Real Men Teach.
Really?
Yes, sir. But my vision is big, man. I want us in movies. I want us on Abbott Elementary. I want people walking down the street saying, bro, that statement means a lot. It gives young people, particularly Black boys and Latino boys, this sense of, okay, we're gonna get back to the point in time when teachers actually get celebrated. Back in the 60s and 50s, bro, it was doctors, lawyers, and teachers. At some point in time, that it became doctors and lawyers and businessmen now. My goal is to get that teacher position, an educator, to that platform where when you become an educator, you're paid, you're compensated well, but in society, you're held up in the same way other professions are because we know how important it is. So Real Men Teach is that movement. And the goal of that Big Ten partnership with the school stores, the goal is to have that throughout the entire Big Ten, HBCUs, so that we have college coaches wearing it on the sideline during
That's
football
huge,
games,
man.
bro.
That's huge.
Real men teach Saturday, real men teach Sunday, where you say, hey, bro, you don't have Division I sports.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the professional sports without Black male coaches, mentors,
Mm-hmm.
trainers, AAU coaches, Pop Warner football coaches. You don't have the thriving economy in this country without brothers on the front lines who are supporting young people. And so we want to show the world that we deserve our flowers, but we also are here to stand guard and make sure that every child has a mentor in their life.
Man, look, I hit you up. You got right back to me. Amazing conversation. Want to be extremely supportive. Where can people find your stuff?
So realmenteach.com, you can find access to our gear, but also jobs board, our fellowships, scholarships, and curriculum. Follow us on social media. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, X, you name it, bro. You'll find us. And I warn people, if you buy our gear, you're going to get stopped walking down the street. Someone's going to stop you and shake your hand, ask if you're a teacher. But also, if you start liking our stuff, man, you're going to start getting our stuff every day. But that's what it's supposed to be. What you see in front of your face every day on social media drives who you are. And I guarantee when you support our movement, you will see positive images of men of color, particularly Black and brown men education every single day. It will change how you see yourself, how you see the world, and more importantly, how kids see the profession of teaching.
Damn it. I want to thank you. Thank you for making that drive.
Yes,
it's
sir.
Not an easy drive. Hit that traffic. Thank you for your commitment to education in whole, but to Black male educators.
Thank you,
it's
sir.
As someone who I did my student teaching. I taught. Just thank you for your continue to work, man.
No, thank you for this platform and everything you do, brother. And your son, man, we have a place for him at Morehouse if he wants to.
Yeah, I need that. I'm gonna hit you up. No, most definitely, I'm gonna hit you up with that.
It's that, but I mean, it's men like you who have given me a platform. Again, the Les Etiennes, the Carl Wades, the men who. And likewise, someone has done it for you, bro. And so this is what our young people got to see, man. Like, we don't get to this point alone, and we need to support one another. And I appreciate your support, man. Real talk.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir, bro.
Thank you for joining us another episode of One Door at a Time, Concentric Educational Podcast. You can find us always at concentric.world. Appreciate you. Shout out to Real Men Teach. Hop on that website, follow, like. See you next episode.